Over 1,200 kilometers from Ukraine's front lines, deep within the Russian heartland, Russia guarded what was widely believed to be an untouchable and crucial lifeline fueling Vladimir Putin's war efforts. An expansive and heavily fortified, safely within its own sovereign. This facility was considered a bastion of security and a vital node in Russia's vast and complex energy infrastructure that underpinned not only the country's overall economy, but also the intricate financial mechanisms sustaining its extensive military operations in Ukraine. Long-held illusion of invulnerability and geographic immunity was shattered dramatically when Ukraine launched a meticulously planned, highly coordinated, and expertly executed strike that fundamentally altered the trajectory of the conflict. In a daring and highly sophisticated surgical operation carried out under the cover of darkness on the night of February 23rd, Ukrainian drones embarked on an 200 kilometers deep into contested and heavily monitored Russian airspace to reach and destroy the Kalyakino main oil pumping station located in the Almaty. This station is a critical hub within the Druzhba pipeline network, one of the largest and most strategically important oil pipeline systems in the world, which transports vast quantities of crude oil extracted from the extensive oil fields of Western Siberia and the Kalyakino facility plays a vital role in blending different grades of oil, conditioning it meticulously to meet stringent export standards, and ensuring the steady and uninterrupted flow of oil that accounts for nearly 1/3 of all Russian oil exports. This makes it not just an economic asset, but a strategic linchpin in Russia's ability to finance, sustain, and escalate its ongoing military campaign. The Ukrainian strike resulted in 6 massive explosions that rocked the sprawling facility, igniting towering infernos visible for miles around and sending shockwaves of alarm and urgency across Russia's highest political and military establishments. The attack dispelled any remaining doubts about Ukraine's evolving capability to conduct high-precision, long-range strikes deep inside Russian territory, signaling unequivocally that no strategic asset, no matter how heavily fortified or geographically distant, was beyond the reach of Ukrainian forces. Beyond the immediate and devastating physical destruction, the attack delivered a profound symbolic and material blow that severely disrupted the flow of oil revenues critical to sustaining Putin's war machine. This disruption not only strained Russia's economic resources and oil export revenues, but also introduced new and significant uncertainties into its ability to maintain prolonged and resource-intensive military operations. The psychological impact was equally profound, shaking the confidence of Russian leadership and demonstrating Ukraine's rapidly growing technological prowess, strategic reach, and determination. In essence, the strike on the Kalyakino station marked a pivotal turning point in the conflict, fundamentally shifting the dynamics on both the battlefield and the broader geopolitical landscape, as it underscored Ukraine's resilience and capability to inflict significant damage far beyond its own borders, thereby altering the calculus of the war in profound. As often happens, the Russian outlet Astra was among the first to reveal the extensive damage Ukraine inflicted on Russia's covert oil pipeline infrastructure, which plays a critical role in the country's energy export capabilities and overall economic stability. Astra shared a series of videos filmed from several kilometers away, vividly showing massive flames that illuminated the night sky for miles around. A dramatic testament to the scale and severity of the strike that disrupted a key energy artery. Utilizing geolocated imagery alongside expert analysis from energy infrastructure specialists and military analysts, Astra was able to confirm that the Kalyakino pumping station was the primary target of this operation and bore the brunt of Ukraine's precise and well-coordinated drone strike designed to cripple One video was captured approximately 3.5 to 4 kilometers from the station, while another was filmed from a distance of about 5 kilometers, underscoring the enormous size and intensity of the fire. A blaze visible from such a considerable distance must be massive, and is likely to require days or even weeks to fully extinguish due to the highly flammable oil, volatile gases, and delicate equipment involved, which complicates firefighting efforts and heightens the risk of secondary explosions. Even once the fire is brought under control, Russia will face the daunting prospect of costly repairs and maintenance work that could sideline the Kalyakino station for weeks or even months, severely disrupting the critical flow of oil through this vital artery and potentially causing ripple effects across global energy market. Russian officials predictably downplayed the incident with misleading statements and outright falsehoods, claiming that their air defense systems neutralized a UAV and debris caused a small fire. Such a claim strains credibility. How could debris from a downed drone cause a fire visible from 5 kilometers away? If this is the effectiveness of Russia's air defenses, it might be more practical for Putin to simply order direct strikes on critical facilities rather than pretending their defenses are operational and effective. Energy analyst Militani points out that Russia has lost a pumping station that blends oil from multiple regions, feeding the Druzhba pipeline, which is a key artery for Russian oil exports to Europe and beyond. The Kalyakino station supplies major refineries in countries that continue to purchase Russian oil despite international sanctions, making it strategically vital not only for Russia's economy, but also geopolitically as a lever in energy diplomacy and supply chain resilience. Ukraine's strike serves as a pointed rebuke aimed at one such purchaser, highlighting the broader implications of the conflict on global energy markets and underscoring the vulnerability of Russia's export infrastructure. Militani states the station handles up to 350,000 tons of crude oil daily, although Astra's annual figure of 4.2 million tons seems inaccurate, likely a monthly figure instead. The daily total, when extrapolated, equates to approximately 127.75 million tons annually, which aligns closely with data provided by energy expert Dr. Eric Rudenold. This higher figure helps explain why Ukraine specifically targeted Kalyakino. It processes roughly 30% of the crude oil sent via major export routes, underscoring the strategic impact and far-reaching consequences of this operation on Russia's oil export infrastructure, and its ability to maintain revenue streams amid ongoing sanctions and military pressure, ultimately affecting Russia's geopolitical leverage and economic resilience in the face of prolonged conflict. The Druzhba pipeline, a key component of Russia's extensive energy infrastructure, plays an indispensable role in transporting vast quantities of crude oil from the country's most prolific producing regions, including Tatarstan, Western Siberia, Bashkortostan, and Adnipro. This pipeline is not only a physical conduit for energy resources, but also a vital artery supporting Russia's oil export capacity, which in turn underpins substantial portions of government revenue and amplifies Russia's geopolitical influence on the global stage. By enabling sustained oil exports, the Druzhba pipeline directly supports Russia's broader economic and strategic objectives, providing the financial backbone necessary to project power and maintain influence in international affairs. Prior to the onset of the conflict in Ukraine, revenues generated by the pipeline were instrumental in stabilizing the Russian economy, helping to fund a wide array of public services including healthcare systems, educational institutions, and critical infrastructure projects. These investments contributed to maintaining social stability and facilitated the implementation of consistent economic policies aimed at fostering growth and resilience. However, since the conflict began nearly 4 years ago, the financial landscape surrounding the pipeline has shifted dramatically. A significant portion of income that once supported civilian needs has been redirected toward financing military operations. This reallocation includes funding for weapons procurement, logistical support for troops, and other defense-related expenditures essential to sustaining Russia's military efforts. Despite these challenges and the imposition of stringent EU sanctions accompanied by a $4,410 per barrel price cap, the Druzhba pipeline continues to operate with a substantial capacity of approximately 2 million barrels per day, making it one of the region's most productive and economically vital pipelines. It generates nearly 22 billion annually, underscoring its enduring importance to Russia's energy sector. While a considerable share of the crude oil transported is exported to international markets, a significant portion is processed domestically, supporting both civilian industries and military applications, thereby highlighting the pipeline's multifaceted strategic significance. Recently, the pipeline suffered a major setback when Ukraine launched an attack on a critical pumping station responsible for handling around 30% of the pipeline's throughput. This attack caused severe operational disruptions and inflicted substantial financial losses on Russia, with the damaged station expected to remain offline indefinitely, compounding supply uncertainties. The resultant chaos within the trans network, a key component of Russia's oil transport system, has heightened concerns over potential energy shortages in countries dependent on Russian oil supplies. On the geopolitical front, Hungary's pro-Putin Prime Minister Viktor Orban, whose country relies heavily on the Druzhba pipeline for energy security, has publicly expressed frustration over Ukraine's failure to undertake repairs on the damaged section within its territory. In response, Orban has leveraged his political influence within the European Union to block a proposed €90 billion loan aimed at Ukraine's reconstruction efforts, signaling a prioritization of Hungary's immediate energy needs over broader EU support. For Ukraine, this development starkly illustrates the complex and often conflicting interplay between Hungary's commitments as an EU member state and its closer ties to Russia, underscoring the intricate dynamics of energy politics and geopolitical strategy in the region. The ongoing situation serves as a powerful reminder of how energy infrastructure like the Druzhba pipeline is not merely an economic asset, but a pivotal factor shaping international relations, regional stability, and the balance of power across Eastern Europe. And beyond. He mentioned that recent events have compelled him to reassess his stance, specifically pointing to Ukraine's apparent delays in repairing the Druzhba pipeline within its own territory. Orban is attempting to argue that Ukraine is deliberately obstructing Hungary's access to Russian oil, but the reality is more complex. The damage to the Druzhba pipeline was initially caused by Russia itself during one of its drone attacks targeting the section that supplies both Hungary and Slovakia. This raises a crucial question. Why should Ukraine be responsible for fixing infrastructure that Russia destroyed? If Orban is genuinely concerned about losing Russian oil supplies, perhaps his focus should be on pressuring Putin to stop the attacks on Ukraine, rather than blaming Ukraine for the damage caused by Russia. Moreover, both Hungary and Slovakia currently have about 90 days' worth of oil reserves, so there is no urgent need for Ukraine to rush the repairs of a pipeline that Russia damaged. Nevertheless, Hungary is attempting to block an EU loan to Ukraine until its demands are met. Ukraine's recent attack can be interpreted as a defiant response to Orban's stance. If Hungary's prime minister continues to complain about the damage Russia inflicted, Ukraine has the option to further disrupt the oil flow through the Druzhba pipeline. It's worth noting that on February 24th, the Council of the European Union approved two pieces of legislation that legally authorize the EU loan to Ukraine, which suggests that Orban's threat to veto may not carry as much weight as it initially appeared. Additionally, Ukraine targeted the Kalyakino pumping station with the knowledge that this strike would significantly impact Russia's federal budget. Beyond the financial consequences, there is a psychological dimension to consider. The logistics of the Kalyakino strike are remarkable. Ukraine deployed what New Sky identified as advanced E-300 Enterprise long-range drones, which traveled over 740 miles deep into Russian territory, flying at low altitudes through forests and river valleys. The drones demonstrated incredible precision, with their errors only a few feet, and managed to complete these approximately 10-hour autonomous flights without being intercepted by Russian air defenses. The psychological effect of such an attack is profound. Regions like Tatarstan, which were previously considered safe and far from the conflict, are now vulnerable. Putin had assumed that no part of Russia would be threatened when he launched the invasion, but this attack shattered that assumption. The sirens that sounded as Kalyakino burned were a stark reminder to the inhabitants of Tatarstan that the war has not only reached Russian soil but is penetrating deeper into the country. The closure of schools and suspension of airport operations whenever Ukrainian drones appear serve as further reminders of this new reality. Strikes like these erode the Russian public's confidence in Putin as a protector. Kirill Badanov, Ukraine's former intelligence chief, and now head of the presidential office, highlighted back in September 2024 that these deep strikes into Russia had achieved a critical goal. They shattered the Russian people's belief that they lived in a safe country. Badanov emphasized that this psychological impact is the primary achievement of Ukraine's deep strikes. While the psychological pressure may not be the sole or main result of Ukraine's deep strike campaign in 2026, it is undeniably potent, enough to instill fear even in Putin himself. Back in March 2025, Putin advocated for a partial ceasefire, allowing long-range strikes, revealing his deep concern over Ukraine's advanced drone capabilities and the significant damage they inflicted on Russian civilians and infrastructure. This concern reflects not only the physical destruction wrought by these attacks, but also the profound psychological impact on both Russian leadership and the general populace, who increasingly feel vulnerable under the persistent threat. Putin grows apprehensive as Russia suffers severe financial losses from these attacks, exemplified by the highly disruptive and strategically targeted strike in Tatarstan. This attack sent a powerful and unmistakable message to Moscow, signaling Ukraine's enhanced operational reach and intelligence-gathering capabilities that now enable precision strikes deep within Russian territory. New Sky analysts note that the strike dealt a substantial blow to Russia's federal budget, which is heavily reliant on oil and gas exports transported through strategic pipelines such as the Druzhba, a vital artery for energy supplies to Europe. The destruction of the Tatarstan pumping station not only sharply reduces revenue but also disrupts the steady flow of energy, further exacerbating an already precarious economic situation marked by declining export volumes and fluctuating global energy prices. The Oxford Institute for Energy Studies estimates that oil and gas revenues constitute between 30% and 50% of Russia's federal income, meaning that such disruptions have a pronounced effect on diminishing resources available for military spending and social programs alike. With a significant portion of the federal budget dedicated to supporting the costly and prolonged war effort, Kyiv's deliberate targeting of Russia's financial lifelines is a calculated effort to undermine Putin's capacity to sustain the conflict over time. The Moscow Times reported a staggering $22.30 billion federal deficit in January 2026, accompanied by an 11.6% decline in overall revenue and a halving of oil and gas income to a 5-year low, signaling mounting fiscal pressure. Projections suggest that this deficit may balloon to as much as $49.40 billion by the end of 2026, raising serious concerns about economic instability and the potential for cascading systemic consequences across Russia's financial system. Should these trends continue unchecked, the resulting deficits could deepen the turmoil, potentially leading to reductions in public spending, increased borrowing costs, and heightened social unrest. Ukraine's sophisticated and increasingly effective attacks on Russian oil infrastructure underscore its growing operational reach, intelligence sophistication, and strategic acumen, steadily weakening Putin's war machine from within. The Tatarstan strike marks a key escalation in this campaign, forcing Russia to bleed financially and erode its capacity to wage war long before any territorial changes can be fully realized on the ground. Recent deep strikes targeting missile sites and military bases further demonstrate Ukraine's expanding capability to penetrate Russian defenses, directly challenging Moscow's sense of security and control over its own territory. For a detailed and comprehensive look at Ukraine's evolving long-range tactics, their strategic implications, and the broader geopolitical context, be sure to watch our in-depth video coverage and subscribe to the Military Show for ongoing updates and expert analysis. Thank you for staying informed on this critical and rapidly developing issue.